Okay, we did a pretty good job of Tuesday of getting through everything. We just got to finish a little bit today since we're not together in class. Looks from weather like we will be back together on Tuesday. So if you have any questions over the weekend, you can just email me or you can wait until Tuesday. There are some excellent examples inside the chapter 3 download from this chapter. You've got the Italian flag and you've got a car. And both of those are the Italian flag is actually the best example for implementing our house, which is in our lab. But just a reminder, let's talk about the end of chapter 2. This is kind of where we stopped last time. Remember, we've got a top level program. This is where public static void main is that builds our frame, that builds our thing that's going to be on the screen, and that's where we're going to put stuff. We can control it with set size. We can make that frame bigger. Yeah, we can give it a title. We got to tell it what to do on close. If you ever leave this line off, you'll see that you run into problems because you'll try to close it and it won't stop. And then this last line, set true. And we're actually building things in between 4 and 5. And let's talk about building things between 4 and 5 today. We're going to learn some new shapes. We already know one shape, rectangle, and we've used rectangle. And if you've ever been in an art class, you know that a lot of times those really complex shapes that you see are just regular normal circles and rectangles and things stacked on top of each other to finally make a real shape. But let's do this. Make a class for each part of a drawing that occurs more than once. Right now, our assumption has been that we're drawing one house or we're drawing one car, we're drawing one flag, but you want to make a low level thing. That's a single thing, and inside that, you want to set up a constructor A that says where do you want it to be, which means you got two variables that are holding on to where something's going to be inside that class. And then you've got the good old public void draw graphics 2D G2, which we just use that because it's boilerplate and it works. And down here in drawing instructions is actually where we're going to put in our rectangles and lines and all that stuff. But you've got a class that actually just represents one instance of whatever it is you want to put on the screen. In this case, we got two cars. This is the same class implemented or one implemented once and then modified, but the exact same actions occur. This is why you come up with that three class structure: tester, viewer, component, tester, viewer, component. We want to build a car like this. It's better if you draw it out. Get you some grid paper and say each one of these grids is worth 5 pixels or something. Draw you a picture of what you want, say like your house, and then you know exactly what pixel to start because we're starting with 0, 0 up here in the top left, remember? And then you can count down. All right, I want my line to start at 1010, or I want my point at 1010. I want another point at 020. I'm going to create a line that uses point 1 and point 2. And then I know this point, so I got to create this point, and then I want to draw a line that uses point 2 and point 3. Then I got to create another point, and I want a line that draws point 3 to point 4. This is just a rectangle. We already know that one. This is just an ellipse where the width and the height are exactly the same instead of two different numbers like we've been using them. But it always helps to draw it out. Remember I told you? Use that first. Think first, then code. We're going to go through the car class in pretty detail here in just a second. You got three classes. A car class draws a car. Two objects of this class are constructed, one for each car, and that's done by car component. And remember, we put components on the screen. So if we were put a car and a house on the screen, car component would actually load both the car and the house. And then car viewer would call car component and everything would already be there. We would make it visible. Now, the paint component method of the car component class. And remember, these are some of those boilerplate methods that we're using. Let's look at our car component class. It doesn't have a main, but public class, there's car component name, and it always extends J component. Here's our default boilerplate, public void paint component graphics G. That's our method. And then we're going to put all our stuff in here. A little bit more boilerplate. What this graphics 2D is gives us basically a piece of paper that we can draw on. So then we said, hey, create a new car at 0, 0. All right. Let's ask the car how big it is, or how big our palette is. Take away 60, take away 30. Let's create another car. Another car, different variable name. And instead of starting at 0, 0, we pass it, I guess, negative 60, negative 30. Or we get the width, sorry, and subtract 60, and we get the height and subtract 30, because that's how wide our car is. Remember our picture over here? Starts at 0, goes to 60. Starts at 30, goes to 0, 60 by 30. That's how big our thing is. So basically, when we want to make sure that we have room from the bottom of the screen and from the right of the screen to print our whole car. So when you go look at the code, it takes away 60 from the width so that our car will fit from left to right. Takes away 30 from the bottom so that it'll fit bottom to top. Use those two numbers to create our new car. Now notice when we create a car, we're calling a constructor that takes two integers. So we're passing it two integers each time. Let's go look over here and see how that works when we look at our car. Public class car doesn't extend anything, but we are building. We got to have graphics 2D, remember. We need a rectangle for our body. We need a circle for our two wheels. And to make a line, remember back in math, you got to have 2 points. So we got to create some points first. But here's our private variables, x left, y top. Here's our constructor. Notice no return type. Same name as the class. Takes two variables. We're taking those variables and setting them to our internal names. So off we go. Some more boilerplate, public void draw graphics T2G2. Here's our rectangle. That's our body. There's our front tire, rear tire. And now we're creating our points. Remember our pretty picture of our car on the graph paper? This is what we're doing. We know where the car started, so now we got to move over. We know the car started here, so we got to move over 10, got to move down 10, got to move over 20. Get the idea here? Don't have to move over. We want to point this point. We're trying to find these vertices right here. Now, they're using math to do it inside of their code. You don't have to be that complicated. It makes it simpler, but it makes it harder to read if you've drawn it out. And at this point, this is a good example of how to use your internal variables to derive further values. But if you're, just building it the first time, if I was building my house, I would just put them in 1, 1, tell them exactly where I wanted to be. Now, the problem with that, when you hard code those numbers, your house can't move. Your house is where it is because X left and X right are ignored. You hard coded where these things start. This car is movable because they got its beginning X and Y here. And remember, for the two cars that we created in car component, those are different. This one's 0, 0. This one's however wide the screen is, minus 60. However tall it is, minus 30. So if you want your thing to be movable, you're going to have to learn how to derive these values based off the size of the screen. And this is a good example for doing that. But we get our points, bottom of the front windshield, front of the roof, back of the roof, bottom of the rear windshield, created these points, point 2D.double. And what they mean by double here is an XY. We're calling them R1, R2, R3, R4. Notice we're actually building our lines down here. Line 2D double, front windshield, equal new, use these 2 points. The bottom left, front of the roof, front of the roof, back of the roof, back of the roof, back of the car. So now we've created all of our little pieces. our rectangle, our tires, our lines. Draw the body, draw the tires, draw the front windshield, rooftop windshield, and then we do the magic. Notice every one of these is draw. We've actually put it on our piece of paper. We came back up here. Car 1, draw. In other words, take our piece of paper, stick it on the screen. Car 2, stick it on the screen. Back in car viewer, we added whatever's on the screen that they built in the background, and then we say set it visible. Off we go. All right, so we're moving down to build our pieces all the way down to our individual pieces of the car. And then we jump up to the car level, paint 2 cars on the screen, jump up to the frame level where the user is actually seeing something, and make all that visible. All right, the car Java is embedded in here, but it's also in your downloads. There's the car component. There's the car viewer. And that's the end of the day. One other thing that I wanted to show you, this Italian flag. If you go get the Italian flag viewer, it's very similar. Here's our viewer. That's where public static void main is. This is our happy place. Here's our 4 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's where we're creating our flag. If we go look at Italian flag component, it's actually a pretty simple one. Graphics 2D. Hey, create me a new flag starting at this location. I don't know what these numbers mean yet, but let's go see. I'm creating an Italian flag, and it takes 3 variables. We go look at our constructor, and what are they? X, Y, how wide? And then we're just doing the same thing. Notice this is a new thing here where you could set the color, set the fill. In other words, you're saying, hey, G2, temporarily make yourself green. Fill the left rectangle with green. Now make your palette red. Fill the right rectangle with red. Make a color black. Draw the top line, draw the bottom line. Now, how would we make this a prettier flag? Right now we're just leaving the little rectangle out, and it's kind of an ugly flag when you run it. The Italians will be very disappointed with us. But you can fix that, and that's a good exercise if you want a little practice doing this, is go fix the flag so that it looks like the Italian flag using 3 rectangles instead of leaving the middle rectangle blank. Because here's what our flag ends up looking like. Not the prettiest flag you've ever seen, but it could be better with a white one in the middle. All right. Remember, the first 2 parts of our lab are not visual programs. They're about creating a class that manages variables, and those variables, you need to provide methods to either manipulate those variables or to return the values of those variables. So each one of the part 1 and part 2 are going to have 2 programs. Part 3 with the house is up to you. You can do it the way we did it last week, where you only have 2, or you can try to implement the tester viewer object 1, 2, 3 type class. Up to you. So we will be back in class on Tuesday. Very definitely back on class on Tuesday, at least what I'm seeing on the weather. This video will be posted at the top of the screen here and on YouTube. So see you on Tuesday. Safe this weekend. Thanks.